Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. I'm tending to get a lot of questions in the comments where people are asking, 1, why have I got 2 compressors on my board? 2, why have I got so many drives on my board? And 3, why have I only got compressors and drives on my board? And in this video, I'm going to explain why. Now, the main reason why I've got so many drives on my board is because I tend to do a lot of studio recording. This board here doesn't go out of the studio. It stays in my studio and it just gets used for recording. Now, the reason why there's no other effects on this board is because when I'm mixing, I tend to bring in the other effects, things like reverbs, delays, if I ever do use a chorus, other effects, you know, time-based effects, things like that. I tend to use them in the mixdown process. I bring them in with plugins and I use that while I'm mixing. So that's the reason why there's drives on my board and no time-based effects, no choruses, no reverbs, no flanges, no phasers, nothing like that. Now, the reason why I've got 2 compressors on my board is one compressor is for dark guitars and the other compressor is for more bright guitars. So one compressor is for guitars like my PRS DGT, which is a more darker guitar. And the other compressor is more for Telecasters. I love compression, and to be honest, I don't normally play or I don't normally do any recording without those compressors being on. So I'm going to go through all of the pedals individually on my board. Now, I've got a Boss ES8 switcher, which all of these pedals are connected to that, so they're all in loops. Now, on loop number 1, I've got a Keeley compressor. I think it's called the Compressor Plus or the 4-knob compressor. Now, that sounds like this. Now, if I switch that out, and bring it in, the reason why I've got this compressor on my board, and I've explained this before, is because this compressor has a treble boost function on it. So what I can do with this pedal is I can drive the front of an amp, first of all, which is mainly what I'm using this compressor for. I've got the mix dialed right back. So I'm using parallel compression. And what that means is, imagine 100% compression. I'm actually dialing the mix back. So I'm letting a load of the guitar signal through as well as the compression. So at the moment, I think it's dialed back to about 30%. So that's 30% compression and 70% guitar signal. So it's a much cleaner way of using compression. I tend to run this compressor a little bit hot. So what I'm doing is boosting the volume, which is going into the front of the amp, and that's driving the front of the amp slightly. So without and with. Now, it's a subtle thing, but it's just pushing the front of the amp. So I'm using that compressor for darker guitars, things like my PRS. And actually this one here, this is a slightly darker guitar than my Telecasters. And it just means that I can balance the darker guitars with the brighter guitars. So when I'm using a darker guitar, I'll use compressor number 1. And when I'm using the brighter guitar, I'll use compressor number 2. So if I switch in compressor number 2, which is an exotic SP compressor, and take it out and bring it in. Again, with this compressor, I've got the mix dial back, so it's about 30%, same as the other ones. So there's 30% compression and 70% of the clean guitar signal coming through. I don't tend to have my guitar signal any more compressed than that. That's literally about it. So the compressor is literally just flattening off the peaks. The next pedal in the chain is an Earthquaker Devices Black Eye Boost, and that sounds like this. Again, that's just pushing the front of the amp. Let's take it out and bring it in. next pedal in the chain is an Exotic Effects BB preamp. This is the Andy Timmins edition, and I recently did a video on this. I absolutely love this pedal. I've been told this pedal is modelled after a blues breaker, but for me, it's far more saturated than that. Let me just show you. Now that's literally with the drive about a third up. If I turn the drive all the way back, it's incredibly dynamic, and you can get like a really nice sort of clean boost sound out of it, and you can get like quite a lot of distortion out of it as well. Let me turn the drive up. Now this is about halfway. I can honestly tell you, if someone's looking for a drive pedal that does absolutely everything from a clean boost to great sort of soaring lead sounds, that is the pedal to get. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But as I said, I tend to use it with the gain about a third of the way up. Sounds like this. The next pedal in the chain is an Earthquaker Devices Plumes. This pedal has 3 different settings. You've basically got a clon style setting, you've got a treble booster, and you've got a tube screamer. At the moment it's set to the tube screamer setting, and it sounds like this. And off. So that's got a mid sort of drive setting on it. I tend to use that a lot for rock rhythm stuff. Now the last pedal in the chain is a Thorpy Peacekeeper. Now this pedal is a bit of a funny one because it works really well with certain amps and not with other amps. Now I've got it plugged into, at the moment, I've got it plugged into a Boss GT1000. It works so well with that. Let me just show you. So this is the clean sound again. And this is it in. So again, that's quite a highly saturated sound. It works really, really well with the Boss GT1000. But what I can also do with that pedal, if I want even more gain, what I tend to do, that's the Peacekeeper on its own. And then I can bring in the Earthquaker Devices Black Eye Boost if I want to give it even more. So I'll play it first without, and then in. So I can get some much more saturated tones. And actually that's about the most gain that I would ever use. Let me just demonstrate that by sort of chugging some chords. At the moment, all of these pedals are plugged straight into a Boss GT1000, and at the moment I'm tending to do a lot of recording using the GT1000 because it's such a great sounding unit and it's right on my desk and it's plumbed in and I can get tones really, really easily from it. I highly recommend it. If you guys want to check one out, they're absolutely fantastic. So anyway, I really hope you guys got something out of that. I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. If you did get something out of it, don't forget to like and subscribe, click on the bell button, and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.